Hey collectors, welcome to Star Wars Collected. I'm Jonathan. Today we're going to be talking about the Hot Toys figures that I wish that they would make that come from the Prequel Trilogy. Those of you who follow this channel and are subscribed probably know that my main focus is on things like helmets and one-to-one props, but I also love sideshow and hot toy statues and figures. So when I think about Hot Toys, they make some amazing pieces. The detail is incredible. When I first got into collecting, I didn't really see the big difference between Sideshow and Hot Toys. Now I totally do. And if I have a choice, I'd rather have a Hot Toys figure over a Sideshow figure, although Sideshow has done some incredible stuff as well. So when I think about what Hot Toys makes, most of the time it's things that are gonna sell pretty well, I think, but there are some things, especially from the Prequel Trilogy, that they've totally missed that I think we really need to add to our collections. This list is somewhat in a least wanted to most wanted type rundown, but not completely. So let's start off here. The very first one I'm going to put down is a Senate Guard. Again, if you watch my channel, you know that I actually just built a Senate Guard helmet that was recently added to my collection. These guys look so cool on the shelf. Imperial Guards are undoubtedly one of the most favorite figures and looks from the original trilogy and also technically the prequel trilogy because we see them in Revenge of the Sith. But the Senate Guards, I think, look almost just as cool. So it's kind of interesting to me that this figure has not been made yet, especially considering it would be a relatively easy one to make since it has the sort of cloth that flows over top. You don't have to put as much detail in the armor underneath, although I'm sure that they would. There are two different versions of the Senate Guard. There is the open face one that we see in the Phantom Menace, which has a big feather plume on top. That would be a pretty cool one to make. I love that feather plume, but I think it would make more sense and be easier if it was the ones that we see later on in the prequel trilogy, where it has a visor over top of it. That way you don't have to throw in some sort of random head sculpt. And this figure could come with a couple different accessories, but primarily it would come with a pike, just like what the Imperial Guard has, as well as some rifles and things like that. You see them with a lot more actual weaponry in the prequel trilogy. The next one I'm thinking about is Zam Wessel. You know, this character wasn't around for a real long time, but I think it made a pretty cool impact at the beginning of Attack of the Clones. You know, partnered up with Jango Fett, hired by Jango Fett, and then ultimately killed by Jango Fett. You know, it's a shapeshifter, so it'd be cool to have two different head sculpts. She also has this sort of little handkerchief thing that she puts in front of her. That would look pretty cool hanging off the piece. It would make sense for her to come with a couple different blasters. And there's just a lot of detail when you look at her armor and things like that that would just look incredible as a display piece on a shelf. Next on my list is everyone's absolute favorite Gungan. No, not Jar Jar. Not Jar Jar. Boss Nass. Okay, Boss Nass, you know, had a pretty pivotal role in the Phantom Menace, but you never really see any representation of him out there in collectibles. Maybe other people find him annoying. I always thought his characterization was actually kind of cool and kind of different. He has a lot of really cool detail in his costume. There is that sort of floating orb thing at the end of the Phantom Menace that can make kind of a cool accessory for him to be with. Another one that I would be open to would be General Tarfal's. I don't know what it is. I always like General Tarfal's. He meets a very noble end in the Clone Wars series, but you know, he was always sort of the cooler version of Jar Jar to me. Shifting from the good guys, let's shift over to the bad guys. How about Padme Amidala? You know, this character doesn't do a whole lot on screen in the books and in the canon in general. He's actually a pretty pivotal character. He is the one who actually signs the ceasefire and the truce and all the treaties and things like that with the New Republic, with Mon Mothma, and kind of technically, you know, ends the war as far as the official empire goes. So, you know, I can totally see why they don't make this guy, but just look at how cool he looks. You know, the detail in his skin, the sculpt of his face, the costume. I don't know what it is, something about these colorful characters just looks really cool on a shelf, especially when you have, you know, so many stormtroopers and death troopers and black and white and stuff like that. I think a character like this would look really cool in display. And you'll also find that I did not put a Palpatine on this list, a Senator Palpatine. We've had quite a few of those. I'm sure we could always use more, but it would make a really cool accessory next to a pre-existing Palpatine. Okay, staying with people that the Emperor sort of screwed over, what about Nute Gunray? Nute Gunray was sort of the forward villain in the Phantom Menace, who we kind of thought was the bad guy. Very interesting face sculpt. You know, he's got the little headdress thing, the kind of crown thing, the robes. I love their eyes. I think their eyes always look so cool. And, you know, we don't have any other representation of this character from any high-end collectible that I've ever seen. So having Nute Gunray in there would actually be pretty cool, I think. Okay, now let's talk about a boy who's very close to my heart. How about Tarfal? For those of you who don't know Tarfal, Tarfal is he is a chief, he is a general. He works with Chewbacca in Revenge of the Sith. He also shows up in Rebels. He shows up in Jedi Fallen Order, and he is just a really cool looking Wookiee. You know, you'd be able to kind of maybe take the things that the Hot Toys has learned about making Chewbacca figures and make a version of that has the different color fur for Tarfal, but then you get to add all the cool accessories that Tarfal has. He has all this different cool armor and things like that. He would just look awesome on a shelf, especially if you already had a Chewbacca and you had a Tarfal, or if you had a Yoda and a Tarfal, putting those next to one another, you know, two extremes of the galaxy as far as height goes. I think a Tarfal would actually make some economic sense as far as something that they've already kind of developed, and would make a really cool addition. Okay, I have one that's just for my prequel memes subreddit. How about Dexter Jettster? Okay, his outfit would be terrible. In the movie, it's only just a stained t-shirt, and he's constantly pulling his pants up. But he is such an interesting sculpt. You know, it would be such a cool one to see with the 4 different arms. It would be so unique in anyone's collection. We don't have a representation of this character. We don't have a representation of this species even. And he's a fan favorite. You know, he seems so minor and really kind of a weird character to show up in Attack of the Clones, but I think he would actually sell kind of well. I think I'd definitely be interested in one. Would you guys be interested in one? The next figure I'd like to propose is Sebulba. Okay, Sebulba is a Dug. He's a kind of a smug camel-looking character. A very interesting sculpt on that. The way his costume is designed, it'd be very easy to have different swappable feet or hands, depending on how you want to look at what is where, as well as a swappable face or something like that, because it all just sort of plugs into where his little outfit is. You could do a lot of really cool things here. I made some notes here. So the swappable feet, swappable head, and or goggles that come off, because he looks really cool with the goggles on and off. Do you guys remember the Gorgs? The Gorgs were the things that Jar Jar was trying to eat, and that's what got him in trouble with Sebulba. So that'd be kind of a cool accessory, a fun accessory to put with him. And then what would be really cool would just be if you could actually get like a pod, you know, like his pod racer. You know, the whole thing would be, of course, incredible, but even just his pod to sort of like put him in, that would make a really cool display as well. But Sebulba is a really cool looking character, and we just really don't have anything other than I think a Hasbro toy from the actual time that the movie was released. So Sebulba, I think, would actually make a ton of sense. All right, now this one I'm getting really serious about. This one would be an instant buy for me. I don't know why they don't make it. It must just be way too intricate or something like that, but a Droideka. This is absolutely the coolest battle droid we've ever seen. I remember when the Phantom Menace was coming out, this is the one that I was crazy about. It was one of the first figures I bought. You could kind of fold him up and you could try to roll. It didn't really work too well with the Hasbro toy, but what an incredibly cool character. It has that sort of purplish, copperish, burnt titanium paint job to it. And I think what would be really cool for a display would maybe be sort of a platform that maybe mimicked the Naboo palace floor. That'd be really cool. And then over top of it, like a dome that you could put over top of it that sort of had like a light blue tint to it, or like a little bit of like an energy pattern to it. Just think about how cool that would look on a shelf with some light on it. It boggles my mind that we do not have a Hot Toys version or even a Sideshow version. I don't care if somebody make one. I think we need a Droideka. All right, collectors, only 2 more to go on this list, but this next one I'm gonna admit is a little bit of a cheat. We have a supreme lack of Jedi. And I'm not just talking about Order 66, I'm talking about during the prequel era, Hot Toys does not seem to make other than Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan and Yoda. We're missing Jedi. So I made a quick short list here. Ki-Adi-Mundi, Kit Fisto, Plo Koon, Shak Tin, Sas Tin, Aayla Secura. Those I think would all make a lot of sense. Now, this list is actually going to seem really familiar for someone like myself, because other than Sas Tin in there, I actually have all these in a Sideshow version. You know, they look pretty cool. They're actually really inexpensive if you pick them up secondhand, but they're not Hot Toys. You know, they just don't have that face sculpt and the joints and things like that. They're just not of that quality. And I think what would be really cool would be if each one came with a display that was their their chair. Now granted, they're not all Jedi Masters, they're not all on the council, but bear with me. But if each one came with a chair that you could then link together, there's an old Hasbro toy that used to be sold this way where I think it came with a few of them together, and you could buy a couple different sets, and at the end you could connect them all together to sort of make the Master Council there. So I think Jedi would be really cool. I understand that some of these characters maybe are not all that popular or not as popular as they could be, so I can understand why Hot Toys doesn't make it, but it just seems like they could be making more of these. Okay, collectors, the very last one, Padme. Are you serious? How do we not have a Padme? Now, I know that they have previewed an Attack of the Clones Padme where, her shirt's cut and she's looking all good and whatever, but the iconic red dress Padme, we're talking about one of the main characters in the prequels. We're talking about the mother of Luke and Leia, and we do not have this representation. Everything from, like I said, that red dress, which is incredible, to that makeup with the the little dots and the lipstick. And I think that must be what it is. I think it must just be that the cut and sew on that dress must be so complicated that they've just never decided to do it. But there's so many cool things you could do with it. You could, have a stand that's a throne, sort of like my Maul figure has sort of like a little seat that it sits on. Hot Toys loves to throw LEDs into things. How cool would it be on her dress to have the little pods at the bottom light up like they did in the movie? Maybe not with a car battery like they had to use in the movie. But this is a figure that we need. I would pre-order this immediately, instantly. Please give us a red dress Padme. All right, collectors, that is my list of missing Hot Toys figures from the prequel movies. What I really want to know though is, what do you want? Do you want some of the ones that I want? Do you have a character that I didn't even think about? Please put that down in the comments. I would be super interested to know. If you like videos like this, please leave me a like and also subscribe so you can follow along. And a huge thank you to my already existing subscribers. You guys are incredible. This channel is growing so much quicker than I ever expected to. You're amazing. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.